Hi, my name is Mike Tusaw. I'm a financial advisor from St. Charles Wealth Management. Today, we're going to discuss exiting a long option position, whether you're buying a call or a put. In terms of entering the long option position, a lot of that was discussed on our other videos on this network, strike price selection, as well as time frame selection. Feel free to check those out if you have not already. Also, what we want to make sure that we really have an emphasis on today is knowing your exit before you get into the trade. In other words, having a plan before you actually make the trade. Let's take a look. Now, there's two methods that I like to use when buying a long option. The first method is the all or nothing model. Now, what that means is that you're fine losing 100% of what you put on the table in buying a call option. In other words, there's no stop loss or put option. So what that can do is the benefit of doing this is that I don't have to worry about risk on this trade, because if it goes all the way to zero and I'm totally wrong, the most I can possibly lose is the amount of money that I put on the table for that specific option trade. Now, how do you limit risk? Well, the way with which you do is that you limit risk by the size of your position. Now, this is usually done with an out-of-the-money option, meaning that you don't want to put a lot of money on the table and you believe that the underlying is going to have a lot of movement. Then if you buy an out-of-the-money option with a small amount of your risk capital, then you can do something along these lines and not have a concern for the downside. Now, of course, the disadvantage is the fact that you're going to have to get a lot of movement to get what you want typically, but it is available. Now, the final point to this method is make sure that you have a defined plan before you exit the trade. See, when you put money to work in the market, whether it's a stock, bond, option, future, whatever the case may be, then you're giving up control of that money instantly, whether it's for a short-term trade or a long-term investment. The way with which you're giving up control is that the market now controls it. The market can make that money become more or less depending on what it does. And so when you get into something like this and you're not in control, emotions tend to take over, whether it's greed or whether it's fear. That's why before getting into a trade like this, or any trade for that matter, have a defined plan on what you're going to do, whether it actually works in your favor or if it does not work in your favor. By having a plan, it can help you make a more wise decision with your trade. Now, this strategy is something that I used in 2018. We were towards the end of the year, and I was actually pretty bullish on the stock market. And so I had already had a successful year that year around the time of mid-November, about when I put the trade on like this. And I was of the school of thought that I've had a good year. I don't want to make a good year into a bad year, but I'm still bullish on the market. What's something that I can do? So I bought out of the money calls. And naturally, the market just went totally against me. I was dead wrong on this. Now, this method helped me because I had a small amount of money on the table. If the market would have gone up as much as I thought it would have, I'd have made a lot of money. But unfortunately, I was wrong. The fortunate thing was that I managed risk appropriately. And by doing that, I was able to actually still have a good year in 2018, even though the market was negative, and it was very negative in that December. Now, the next method that we like to use whenever we're buying a long call option or a long put option is the stop loss method. This is a little bit more different, and this is something that's more common whenever we are using single leg options. There's three ways with which you can use this. The first one is by matching your profit and your loss. So in other words, let's say that I'm spending $2 for a call option and I want to make 50 cents on it. I want to exit that trade when the call option gets to $2.50. Well, if that's the case, I know that to the downside, I want to exit that trade when the call option value is at $1.50. By doing that, I'm not trying to make more than I'm willing to risk. Now, a point of emphasis on this is that this is never perfect. In other words, you're going to get out of trades at $2.45 and get out of them to the downside at $1.38. It's never going to be perfect. However, When you have this framework in place, you can stick to a plan and it can actually work out pretty decent in the end. What you have to do if you're matching your profit and loss on the grand scheme of things, you're going to have to win more trades than when you lose. If you do that, then you'll be a profitable trader. If you don't do that, then you'll be a losing trader. This is kind of the simplest way with which to look at a profit point matched with a risk point. Now, let's say that as you're doing this, you want to do something to the effect that you want to have a little bit more wiggle room on the trade. In other words, I'm very confident that this is going to go my way. I just don't think if I have that tight of a stop loss, I'm going to get stopped out too quickly. That's fine. What you can then do is make your loss greater than what your potential gain is going to be. So in other words, let's say that you bought that option for $2. You can make your loss point, let's say $1.20 instead of $1.50. And by doing that, you'll have more wiggle room if the stock has some interim volatility until it gets to the point to where you can sell it at the $2.50 for your profit. You can do that. It won't require as much movement for doing that. However, you're going to need to have a greater amount of winners than losers for doing that because you're allowing a greater loss. Now, the advantage is that you don't quite need as much movement on it to the upside if it has a lot of volatility in it. Now, on the flip side, what you can do with this is you can set it up to where you have a greater profit than loss. So in other words, let's say you tighten up your stop loss to instead of $1.50, let's say $1.70 or $1.80. That's fine. But what you're going to need more of is you're going to need the greater movement to actually make a profit on this trade to the upside. And by setting it up that way, you can have more losers than winners and still be profitable. However, you're going to need more movement if you set it up that way. And finally, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. That's how we get our material out to more investors. If you are looking for a financial advisor who uses the option product in ways like this and has his own unique way of making it work with longer term investments, feel free to reach out to me. You can follow me on Twitter, and you can also check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. Thank you and have a wonderful day.